the workshop. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Here.
Mr. Castellan,
Here.
Commissioner Russo,
Here.
Commissioner Lava,
Here.
Judge Mills.
Here. Do you have a quorum? So items deliberate and discuss, general discussion on 2022 budget with elected officials and department heads. Jackie, what are we going to start with?
Well, I gave y'all a list of things that we need direction on as the staff, so that we can make sure that we can put it like we want it. If we want to start at the beginning, tax rate.
Pardon?
Just the tax rate.
Okay.
Right now, it's based on no new revenue. And just need direction if that's what you want to leave it at. We can go up to 50 cents without,
Let's know.
no, I mean, it's just,
Don't we need to go through the rest of the stuff first before that's gonna have an effect on what we
Well,
think the rate,
that's
the
true.
rate might be, or?
that's true. I mean, almost would like to see us do the tax rate and then see what the effect is to see if we need to do something different. But I mean, that's y'all's call. If y'all want to do the others first, that's fine. Right now, we do not have anything what you're seeing now. And let me just do the front page so you can see what the effect is on it. Right now, with the way the budget is, with the no new revenue rate, salaries just as they are, we're looking at a reduction in fund balance of right at $497,000. All of these things below it, most of these will affect that. So we can work any numbers that you want. We've got numbers for the different COLAs. If at a 2.5%, a 3, 5, 7.5, and a 10.
Well, I would recommend 5 for employees and elected officials.
Okay.
And I would support the 5, but I would also recommend to look at 7.5. I think 10 is too much at one time.
I'm comfortable, not that it's my choice, it's y'all's choice. The 5% is something that we will be reducing fund balance by a total of $976,000. That's doable.
Well, we could look at 5% this year and then see how we go, and maybe look at another 5% next year.
Okay, I
You know,
will.
my argument on this is that, you know, I've been on the court 13 years now, and one of the first things we did was, well, let's just give them a minimal right now and we'll catch up. Well, we hadn't caught up in 13 years. So
No, sir.
I think 5% is the minimum that we need to look at. I'd look at a little bit more, but I would commit to the 5%, you know, not worth taking a vote, but I would commit to the 5%.
Okay, I have been approached for elected officials to receive a 10%.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't give the elected officials any more than I give the rest of the people.
Okay.
When we say caught up, but Jack, what are you referring to? Catch up to what is a general inflation rate for the US in the same period?
Well, I think that you know, we've been a long time getting in this much of a hole, and I think we can plan on taking maybe 2 to 3 years, getting us back out to something that's normal to the market in the area.
In comparison to other counties.
Caught up would be comparing us to nearby counties or counties.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, with, you know, we can't hold a candle to San Antonio or Corpus Christi or anything, because they have so many more revenue
San
sources
Patricio.
than we do.
But comparable to neighboring counties.
Yes.
Where San
That's
Patricio
right,
has
brother.
better tax revenue from their
Yeah.
industry.
Doesn't matter.
I'm sorry.
As
I
far
said,
as them
I'm just
keeping
saying
employees.
Patricio has better tax revenue from their industry.
Yeah, he's not so much
Well,
talking
that's
about
true.
how hard it is to pay for, but just what competitive pressure we face when we try to hire.
Right.
people.
Understand.
Neighboring
Social Security is proposing a 5.8% increase, I believe. So I think the 5% is, and what I read, this is the biggest one they've done since 1983. So, hey. you
Who's
know,
that?
Social Security.
So you think Social Security deduction is going to go up? that what you're saying?
No, no,
No.
they're going to increase social security
What they pay
benefits.
people.
Oh,
Yeah, they're
okay.
not gonna pay for it, they're
benefits.
just gonna spend it.
Well, you know, they spend it on everything. So then we will do that. In fact, I can do that right now and show you what the effect is.
How much is it for the 7.5%, just for comparison of difference?
It would increase our reduction in fund balance by $1.2 million, about
So that's a difference of what, 250,000?
300.
300,000. Yes, sir.
And how much is their fund balance?
Right now, it's over $7 million.
I'd sure like to look at the 7.5, but I would certainly consider the 5%, but I would sure like to look at the 7.5.
I'll just throw in, I'm most willing to talk about reducing the reserve fund because I think if it gets back to where we were before Harvey, which got us through, I don't feel insecure about it, but I would hate to talk about raising the tax rate to cover pay.
Well, traditionally for the last, or it's a trend for the last 3 years that I've been working on the budget, we have put money back into the fund balance.
Mhm.
Last year was, even though we projected to go into fund balance by several $100,000, we actually put back in
Right.
like 1.3.
So I'm
So,
just saying, I prefer hitting the fund to hitting the tax rate if we need to give raises.
okay.
That seems like a way of recapturing inadvertent overtaxing in the past, and that's a better way to pay for salary increases than raising taxes.
Well,
Wasn't a COLA given last year to the employees?
2.5%.
So there was a COLA given. What about the year before?
Yeah, we've given a call almost every year except
There
maybe,
was a 2.5 the year before as well.
yeah.
Okay.
Then after, but the year immediately following Harvey, maybe the one after, did we skip?
Yeah.
Yes.
did
Did
not
we skip
get
2
into-
years?
2, I think.
Two, I
Skip 2
believe.
and then gave 2.5 for the next two.
Okay, the 7.5 this is what it'll do. It'll reduce our fund balance to about $6.5 million. That's the 1.2 million reduction in fund balance as things are proposed right now.
That counting,
That's a 7.5.
is that counting or not counting the 500,000 that we already were going to have to reduce? the fund
That
balance?
includes it.
Okay.
That includes it.
I might vote for a 5%, but I promise I will not vote for a 7.5%.
We're going on down the list.
Yep.
I would say the mechanic, we kick that one down the road till next time. Number 4.
Okay, it is not in the numbers that we've got right now.
How
So
much would that cost? What are we talking about?
about $50,000, I think is what,
For the
with
mechanic,
benefits.
53, I
Yeah, a
believe.
little over 50,000. And that includes benefits.
My thought on that is, if we need to add a mechanic to take care of that stuff, we need to do it into our maintenance, under the mechanics as they are now, into our assets repair and stuff.
I think the way Valerie's talking about it, if she had her own mechanic, then she wouldn't have to pay for a mechanic in the fleet. Right.
The money right
Right.
now comes out of her budget
Oh,
and pays.
Yeah, it
pays
comes out of
fleet.
that. Okay.
So
it
is there an
doesn't-
argument that it's budget neutral instead of costing 50,000?
I
Yes.
don't think it's neutral, but
Less than 50.
it's less than. the
It would be
complete
really
cost.
good to have a
Very close to it.
close to neutral.
She pays about
Minimal.
40,000 a year to.
We don't get very many complaints because the sheriff's vehicle is not running, but we get a lot of complaints if.
Mosquitoes are not.
Really.
Yeah.
Well,
But more
About the
importantly, if it's,
citizens.
we shouldn't think of it as a $50,000 cost if it's not.
No.
that.
Oh, well, people the
They-
sheriff's
Well, it's
dealing
called-
with
it's
just
called
said
y'all-
the car broke
Y'all
down.
take care of everything.
You get the complaints. We don't hear them, so we don't.
We had a vehicle sitting over there for over a year with the engine sitting next to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 times 1 time.
But
Well, I picked the
that's one
wrong
reason
one
why
to
you're
compare
gonna
that to,
get a
didn't
new
I?
vehicle acquisition program this time around,
But still,
because we heard
I
you.
don't think that the department is real efficient.
Which one? The sheriff?
Fleet.
Oh, fleet. Oh. I guess I wouldn't want to pass over mosquito control that fast until we can find out what the real net cost. If it's not 50, it's actually 2. That should make a difference.
It'll be about 13,000.
Is Valerie's on, I believe.
Valerie, are you on?
Valerie, can you make a pitch for how much it will help you to get a mosquito mechanic? We're not hearing you. If you may be muted.
Well, the person wouldn't just work on the mosquito stuff, it'd work on the other stuff.
Transfer station and
Maintenance
environmental
and
health,
stuff,
all
like
of their
oil
stuff.
changes and stuff
Might be
like
able to
that.
work on the sheriff's car once in a while.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Would that person be housed in the environmental services area? Okay.
Okay. Well, we can come back to her if you can get her connected.
All right, let's go down.
5 and
Next.
6 are kind of the same thing, aren't they? Do the road and bridge,
And,
I would think.
and that should be able to be funded out of road and bridge. and
They,
drainage.
they will be funded out of Road and Bridge. The new four-man crew will reduce their fund balance. They have a sizable fund balance. It's over $2 million, but,
In road and bridge funds,
uh-huh.
in the calculation of no new revenue, is the amount that's in road and bridge calculated into that, or is that just ad valorem taxes? Just property taxes?
Correct me if I'm wrong, we calculate a no new revenue rate for, the no new revenue includes both the special, we do,
We have a special and we have, but then there's a combined.
Okay, so,
They do have their own.
But when we talk about no new revenue, it's combined.
yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
the total rate, but there is a separate rate for each.
Well, I mean, if they have a balance that has been set aside for this kind of thing, and it's what Roads and Bridges recommends and they need, and
Yeah.
it's something that, I mean,
And
we hardly
part of-
hear anything louder than we hear
Right,
requests
and
for
part of it is
drainage control.
equipment, I'm sorry. Part of it is equipment, which is a one-time expenditure, so that wouldn't be a reoccurring expenditure also. So we have them in there now, it's just, we need direction on whether we leave it in there. If we want
Okay,
to
so
just-
the budget we've been looking at already includes
Yes,
them.
ma'am.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
I'd say leave it.
Okay,
But I don't understand then why there's a hesitation about the mosquito control, because she has her own fund, does she not?
yes, ma'am. Now, part of it is, well, she gets like a very,
I'm
very,
here.
very little bit.
Oh,
of
Valerie, do we have you now?
Valerie?
And the rest of it.
Yeah, I'm on the phone.
sales tax.
Can you give us a pitch for why it makes more economic sense to have your own mosquito truck mechanic and what it does to your budget and reserves? Net of what you'll save by not having to use fleet?
So right now, I know that we give money to fleet through the fleet fund out of mosquito control. I don't know what the net cost was. I never got a net, but I know that we also pay into the fleet fund from the transfer station, which is a greater amount than what mosquito control pays into.
So what you're saying is reduce the contribution to the fleet fund to fund your own mechanic?
Correct, from both the mosquito control, which would be working more, but also from the transfer station fund that also funds fleet. Mhm.
So how much extra would it actually cost the county all in? Do you know? To make this
If we
change?
utilize both of those funds, I don't know if it would be an actual cost to the county.
Would not be.
Could be a wash?
It
So
would be a
if
wash, it
we-
would be
if we
neutral.
Fund mosquito stuff from the healthcare sales tax.
Yes.
Could we pay a repair person out of that?
We pay our
Mechanic.
employees.
We pay the employees.
That might be.
Well, you don't get much
Well,
strain done.
I mean,
Look down.
In all actuality.
Mosquito
the-
control
the
isn't considered?
Number that's transferred from the transfer station itself is enough to cover the employee. So
I mean, if it's revenue neutral, I'm struggling to see why we shouldn't grant this one.
All right.
And they
Yes.
could be housed there at a transfer station.
But you would also need equipment one-time purchase or start out with, right?
Yes.
Tools
And- Would that come out of your fund, Valerie, or is that a hit to the county? And how much would it be?
Considering both funds, I think it would still be budget neutral.
Put it in there.
Yep.
Okay.
I have a question. Why wouldn't we just have another fleet maintenance mechanic?
Because then the person over fleet maintenance decide what he fixes first.
Okay.
If she has her own mechanic.
Yeah, it's priority. Mhm.
The sheriff was behind on getting things too, if that needed another mechanic to work on all county.
This might free up more time with the fleet maintenance to work on the sheriff's vehicles now. Because I know when I
Correct.
hear that was an issue with environmental health and mosquito control even then, getting their vehicles fixed in a timely fashion. So that's been going on for 5 or 6 years or longer.
You know, we talked whenever Mike was still here before Chris, and Chris is doing a great job. But I asked Mike in a public meeting, in a budget hearing, if he needed another mechanic. He said he definitely needed another mechanic, had no place to put him. And that was one of the issues that he had at the time. I don't know if that's still an issue, but
Well, then that's a good, in favor of,
Another mechanic.
yeah. Well, it evidently does need another mechanic if you've got that many vehicles down.
All right.
but then that's an argument in favor of putting a mechanic in environmental.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one.
Is the road crew the same issue with roads and bridges, that it could be paid for out of their balance, their fund balance, and therefore not a hit to the general budget or the tax rate?
Well, it would be paid, be paid out of their fund balance
Right.
Okay,
if there was an additional employee.
so no further hit to the general reserve and no further
No.
hit to the tax rate.
No, that would go to Road and Bridge. They're a separate fund.
I call that one a yes.
All right. Number 7. IT. Request for salary to give a 3-step increase and change groups for employees.
Now, this brings up an issue I've been trying to understand better since it came up this week. And that is, I don't know a whole lot about the step increase rules, but I thought each employee was limited to 1 per 12-month period. So when you say a 3-step increase, are you talking about 3 steps for a single employee in 1 12-month period?
So, and this may be me not understanding the step rules as well. I'm trying to catch up my department, to what their steps should be. We had budgeted for the last few years for them to get step increases. And that was an oversight on my part. I didn't realize that certain things had to be done. And so they didn't get them. And so I would like to catch them up.
Do we have a procedure for
Yes.
catching up people who didn't get a step
No, no.
increase in a
No.
prior year?
No,
They're not retroactive,
I don't think we're supposed to do them retroactive.
but they did get 3-step, probably one increase, but it was a 3-step increase, both of your employees this year. So they have already received that.
okay. All right. Okay, let's, item number 8, extension officer.
Well, 8, they haven't got any step increases according to what I've got, so couldn't that be accomplished with step increases?
Yeah,
Are we talking about on Monday?
I'm looking into that now for a step increase for them this year. Gets them up with A&M, so that's okay. Cultural arts.
Is
I
that-
think we should, I just think we should leave the hot
At 10,000.
percentages the way they are on all of
That's a hot fund allocation we're talking about?
them.
And it's 4% from what currently?
We get 10,000 flat.
Okay. So they were talking about being changed to a 4%, which is a sliding.
And the
Should be more.
10% is roughly about 2%.
I mean, the 10,000,
10,000, I'm sorry. yes.
right? But we weren't even sure exactly how that money was being spent.
Right.
I think we ought to leave it the way it is right now, but I do think that this year we need to look at all the hot fund expenditures for next year's budget. And so that everybody is notified in plenty of time if they're going to anticipate an increase or a decrease.
I agree. And I was arguing Monday for, expanding what hot funds can cover, but looking at the statute, it doesn't look like we have very little discretion, although, it does look like we're mostly supposed to spend money on advertising, but there is something in there about being able to pay for beach cleanup, and that's worth looking at, but I don't think it's for this week. I think it has to be for next year.
All right, and the aquarium increase on hot funds, I don't see any reason to do that. In fact, no one from the aquarium has called me and asked for an increase.
They just want to build it.
Yeah, they just need a building real bad. And
But is there, right, so in other words, this would just be letting them advertise more. It's not going to help them build a building.
Yeah.
They have funds for the building, don't they? Are they not enough now because of the increase in construction costs?
I don't even know that yet because it hasn't gone to the architects yet.
Okay.
But the insurance company.
But the insurance
seems to
company is
be
going
gonna pay for it.
to pay for it.
Oh, good.
Well, in that case, I'm with you.
All right. And how about the veterans assistance money?
Well, you skipped
Oh, wait.
to number 11.
Well, we're
Increase.
going to probably look at that next year. I'd say leave everything the way it is right now until we can have a good look at it
On which one?
on number 11.
RCA and maritime.
No,
We need to
the
look at all
judge
the
just was
hot
talking
receivers.
about number.
Some kind of hold put us on
I
hold.
would say leave it where it is.
Yeah.
Also, I think all of them should be left where they're at.
Okay.
Okay.
And we'll reconsider for 2023.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that, we're far enough away from a hurricane and we're getting far enough away from the flood and everything. This next year, we should look at every fund that we have any discretion on to see if we're utilizing in the best ability. And some of that, we've looked at hot funds off and on, but never, since the 13 years that I've been on the court, we haven't really made a big change in them.
Well,
Either.
of
How we
course,
do it
with
or
the
not.
percentages, the collections, as much as they've gone up, they're going to receive
More.
considerably more money than they
That's
have in the past.
That's right. And that doesn't hit the general fund.
No, sir.
All right, veterans assistance money to 500. I have a problem with that.
Put that in there.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Okay.
It's 500 enough on that.
Well, I thought we said that the VFW gives them 200 and then Alma had 300 in the budget and he has not even used anywhere near that.
Because he uses his own money and is very.
And will he stop using his own money?
Right, so we're trying to.
Well, he shouldn't be using his own money anyway.
Right. I know he shouldn't.
Yeah, so I would say leave it in there.
I move it up to 500 instead of 300.
Yes.
Okay.
And then were we going to consider whether to put in the budget for a second part-time person? I mean, we're talking about a year from now. I don't know.
Yeah, don't know what, I
We
think,
talked about using a floater.
Floater,
When
I
he needed, well,
yes, ma'am.
I spoke with Mr. Paul yesterday, and he said that he really doesn't want to bring in another part-time employee because he feels like they've been sitting around with very little to do. So I did talk to him about using the administrative floater. He said basically all he really needs is somebody that's sitting in his office that can greet people when they come in, take paperwork, answer any questions, take a message from him. So Jen and I talked about it, whenever she's working in our office, I've been having her sit in his office anyways. So he's gonna work with training her and then show her what he would need if somebody did show up.
Well, that's good.
Jen and
That'd be
I
good.
thought that would probably fix the problem.
That's
All right.
great. Thank you,
That's
Lynn.
good.
That's
Thank you.
good management.
Has the floating person stayed, has it been the same person?
No,
Constantly.
actually, our original floater took a full-time position with Valerie's office.
Okay.
She is now our sanitarian. She inspects all the restrooms.
Okay.
And we have a new person that's doing really well with this one.
All right. That goes through the list then. And we got to go back to the tax rate.
Tax rate.
So all said and done, it will hit the fund balance right at $1 million.
1.2 million is right at what'll be. Now that is with the 7.5% increase,
No, we talked about 5% increase,
Well, we talked about both, I think.
right?
we've talked about both. I will put the 5% in for y'all to see that. And
And tell us a little bit about what will that do to our next year's tax calculations?
it will
If I
not
remember
do
right, there's some-
anything. When it affects your tax rate is when you say, okay, well, we've got too much. We want to reduce the no new revenue, below the no new revenue. That's where it's going to really affect your tax rate.
As long as we
I'm looking at her to
stay-
make sure she agrees with me.
If we stay at the no new
If you s-
new revenue tax rate, which is the 0.392 number, you don't see a problem with the referendum law.
No,
I strongly support reducing to the 0.392 number.
Yeah.
That's the no new tax.
no
rate.
new
Right.
revenue, yes.
If there's not some effect in the future calculations, that's what I would.
No, we had it,
I remember
when
one
that
time
was.
before something came up. that
Right.
Terry was something that we did.
And when that was
Almost that order.
discussed, Bubba, we had the the reserves,
Uh,
and there was talk about reducing it to use some of those
Mhm.
reserves. And that's where it would affect your next year's no new revenue
Yeah.
rate, because it would reduce your revenue, and then that would cause you to have a lower rate the next year. And
I should know this number, but I've forgotten it. What was the rate before Harvey? We had to raise it that year because,
4.9 or
because we
something
had
like that. It's like
Uh,
4.9 or something like that.
before Harvey, because I remember we had to raise it after Harvey.
That was 5
Let me
years ago.
see.
Value-
4 years.
On the website under under the 5 year.
I have them on a workbook here too. I just need to get over to see it. They're on this
But
workbook.
what
I
the
just-
comment, what I'm getting at is the comment I hear most often is that everybody understood that we had to raise the rate temporarily because appraisals crashed temporarily after Harvey. And I'm curious whether we're going to make it back to where we were before we had to do that.
Okay. In 16, it was 0.385.
So we're not quite there. but we got pretty
17 was
close.
0.404. 18 was 0.403. 19 was 0.79.
0.79.
0.479, I'm sorry.
Okay, so if we went back to 392, we would not be quite where we were before Harvey, but we'd be in shouting distance.
We would actually be probably right where we were, because in 17, the budget for 17, which would have been approved prior to Harvey,
Uh-huh.
our tax rate was 0.404.
Okay, and the
So
year
we'd
before,
be-
0.385. So we're
Mhm.
kind of in
Yes,
between
ma'am.
those two.
Of course, the appraised value is gone up.
Right, but I mean, we're supposed to raise, it doesn't
No,
bother me so
I
much.
understand, you're still giving something.
We raise spending every year because the appraised values go up, and there's some reason to that, but it doesn't give us any real reason for raising rates. And I'd like to see rates go back to where they were before we had all these reasons why we had to raise the rates. Because those seemed like temporary reasons and ought to be dispensed with, and we ought to go back to the status quo. It still gets us more revenue because appraisals have gone up in the meantime.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is our no new revenue rate right now?
0.392 something.
Okay,
I didn't bring it with me
No, it's
because I
okay.
had
That's okay.
it.
And the current rate is 0.4.
0.4335.
0.433.
Yes, ma'am. It's 0.392917.
Okay.
It's about a 4-cent decrease.
well, I'm not, yes, go ahead. Okay.
Well,
Anything else?
Well, on your sheet, you're showing that it's a little over a 9% decrease from last year's rate to
Right, and
the
that's because,
calculated rate.
and that's because we had about a 9% increase in appraisal, so
Yeah.
roughly,
Right,
Okay. so-
but it's 4 cents.
Right.
Yes.
yeah, 4 pennies as opposed to percent.
Right, but she has this column.
Right. No, I'm just saying, it's both 4 cents and a negative 9%. They amount to the same thing.
Hmm.
I mean, to the limited extent I'm able to read the public mind, I think people are more focused on our getting the tax rate down to where it was before we raised it than they are on whether we hit the reserve. If the reserves have climbed encouragingly in the recent years, then we go back to where we were at the time that Harvey hit, and that reserve proved reasonably adequate. That's just what I hear people want. I mean, they really want the budget to go down, but that never happens. But their main focus seems to be just get the tax rate back where it belongs.
Well,
Those were the items that we had that we needed direction on. So if y'all have anything else that you want to,
And we just need to talk about, is there support for a 5%, 7.5% COLA? And my priority being the rate rather than the hit to the general fund, I'm prepared to go along with either as long as we can keep the rate at 392.
So how much more would we hit it? 7.5?
It's 225,000 extra. 224.
And we can't vote in here. I don't know. what- I don't
no,
know what
if you
to
can
say.
just give me some direction. I mean, that's all we're looking
That's
for is
almost the
direction.
same as vote, man.
It's pretty close. Yeah.
Yes. So
Compare both. We'll make a decision when we can vote.
there you go. We'll do both.
Can I ask a question? When you're talking numbers, are you including all of the other, not step increases or like, we're discussing the airport defense and their salary, is that already included before you figure the 7.5%? Or is
Did we-
any of those numbers in there?
Yeah. Where's
I'm
the
not sure
airport?
what you're-
Is the airport
This,
proposal, Mike's proposal for a raise, is that in this budget?
No.
No.
it's
That's
in
put
this budget, but it's under the airport. It has nothing to do with this 1.2 is only general fund.
I don't think we should do that. I think that we should handle his increase just like everybody else. If he is eligible for a step increase, you should give him whatever you can and the 5% that.
Now,
you give
I'm looking
everybody,
into
or
his step
7 or
increase.
whatever it is.
what'd you say, Judge?
I said, I'm looking at his
A step
Step.
approach.
increase possibilities. So,
And he would be eligible for whatever COLA we grant.
yes,
And it doesn't affect what you're doing right now because it doesn't
No,
hit the
ma'am.
general fund or the
No,
tax rate. So
No, ma'am.
no need for us to give you instructions.
No, and keep in mind, what we're doing now is not actually adopting it. We still
Right.
have time to work on things because we won't adopt until August 30th.
It's just how you crunch the numbers and portray them to
Right.
us, which
Right.
we need to know
We
what we'll
do
be
need
looking at on Monday.
to file the proposed budget with the county clerk's office. So those things need to be done. We need to post it on the website. But it's still not set in stone until it's voted on the 30th.
If we do the 5% or 7.5%, is that including COLA or separate of COLA?
That would be.
That is
That
the
is-
COLA.
that is the
Okay, it would
COLA.
be COLA. Okay.
yes, sir. Come on up.
Want to clarify a comment that was made earlier. Who out of the last 4 years there was no COLA for elected officials?
Or for anyone.
No, just
No,
elected
no, we
officials.
Everybody else
just-
is-
Given.
No, I mean,
So
2 out of 4
2.5.
years, there was no COLA. 2 years, there was a COLA, 2 years, there was not. No?
No,
Oh, when the COLA happened. So in the last 4 years, 0
zero.
COLAs for electeds? Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
Right.
I misheard you. Got it.
All right. If there's any
So I
other
think what I'm
discussion,
hearing is a proposal for a higher COLA for elected officials to catch up. And do we have numbers on what that would cost?
Do
Without
you mean you
numbers-
think you're hearing it
It's-
from the sheriff?
I don't think.
Not just the
elected
sheriff, but-
Officials should get.
I don't think we
any
should
more
get
than-
an extra more than
No.
anybody else.
I don't
I think
either.
we at least need to know what it would cost before
Well-
we turn the proposal down.
I didn't say we're going to turn it down. I just said I don't believe in it right now.
And I just would like to know how much would it cost to give elected officials a higher COLA?
We could probably do that if, right now, actually.
I think Pam may have a number.
I can speak to things that are mine, but the proposal that I made would be $6,000.
We'll have to just get rid of.
For your department.
That's for over 5%.
Again, we're talking about
So if you
making
do
that time, and I'm talking about.
And then
Here,
and then get rid of
right
these.
there.
I can't tell you how many have not been afforded.
And
to
then
elected
do
officials
5.
during that time. It's much more than 10%, but, you know, I.
And then
understand
5
the
I mean,
issues. I'm
across.
just saying, for the treasurer, the road clerk and the tax assessor, it's less than $25,000 a year.
And
to get 10%.
who is that leaving out? That's leaving out the
That's leaving out the
sheriff and who
that's
else?
leaving out the JPs. I think that's it.
If it might be,
I'm gonna go.
I don't see any difference between the sheriff and the JPs from anybody else. I don't.
No, I don't.
I don't understand.
she just doesn't have those numbers.
I'm sorry, I just didn't have, let me clarify. I didn't
Probably
have
about the
those
same
numbers. I know
thing,
what the board was
except for,
saying.
I mean, the sheriff's would be a little higher, the JPs would be a little lower.
I
It's
agree
about
with
the
you.
same thing.
I mean, we might be in the neighborhood of 50,000, but I just need a reality check on that.
It's like,
So,
this is going down to the 5% for everybody but elected
right,
officials.
this is including a 10% for elected officials and 5% for employees.
And it's $1 million reduction in fund balance.
Okay, what I need to know is how much are we adding by adding the electeds? Would that be 20?
You're not gonna, I mean, well,
Let me calculate. this.
Yeah, like because I lose track when it's a all lump sum.
it's not that much because if we had 5% for everyone.
Right, so
it
you're
was
only adding
gonna be
5 more
900
percent.
and
So we're talking about a total increased cost of,
37,225.
Yeah, you know, if COLA is 3%, and so if you went to the 5%, you're only really going up 2% above what you'd do anyway. You know, if we were going to give a 3% COLA across the board, but instead of doing that, we give 5%, that's only a 2% increase. Okay, it's not the 5% in addition to COLA.
right.
what was already in the budget, a 3%?
5.
5. So when we talk about giving 5, it doesn't affect the budget that you've been showing us for the last few weeks, or it does? Sorry, that's what I always.
No, it does affect it because the last ones that you've been seeing had no COLA.
Okay,
in
so
it.
we've been looking at a 0 as a
Yes,
base. Okay,
ma'am.
got it.
Mhm.
So to add, if one thing to discuss is a 5% COLA for everybody, including electeds. And another thing to look at is that plus an extra 5% for electeds. And I think I'm hearing that extra 5% COLA just to electeds would cost us about 38,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I think that's a bad idea. You know, I mean, we've strived real hard to get everybody on a common plane, you know, whether you're elected or appointed or hired or whatever. And I think to select this out, I still think.
But we're not,
76%.
but Jack, we haven't been on an even plane because we gave COLAs 2 years out of 4 to non-electeds and skipped all 4 years for electeds.
The difference is the elected officials have had the opportunity to either take it or not take it.
True.
I think we've only had.
But that's an argument for not putting them on an even plane.
It's not true.
No,
We voted it down.
some years we voted not to give.
We voted not to
option.
do it.
Yeah, but we had the opportunity.
Right, so,
No.
We voted against any raise for
Anybody.
For
elected.
elected.
right, they didn't have the choice. We made the choice for them. And if you're talking about putting people on an even plane, I do think there's a difference between electeds and unelecteds, but if you want to keep filling positions at the heads of departments, elected or otherwise, you have to keep in, you know, there's the same problem with competition from neighboring communities that pay more. And it may not be much of an argument for anybody who currently occupies a position, but we're planning for the future.
Well, and with elected people, every 4 years you come up for election and no one ever runs and says, I want a 10% raise.
True. But then people
So to
applying
me-
for jobs
so to me,
here
when
don't
you
demand
run,
higher
you
pay
should-
either.
That should be part of your platform. I want 10% raise if you're gonna ask for it. Because you know what you get when you
But you're looking at it from the point of view of whether, life is fair for electeds, and I'm not. I'm looking at it from the point of view of the county has to fill positions and needs to have competitive salaries. I mean, much as I like the electeds, their ability to pay their mortgage isn't my problem. Taxes are my problem, and making sure that the county can hire and or elect and get people to serve in positions is my problem.
Well, it seems like we're doing that. No
Well, I mean,
offices
you
go
could
on.
say we're doing that, well, for all employees. I mean, if there's an argument for a COLA for all employees rank and file down to the lowest level, there is an equal argument for elected officials. We either are competitive or we're not.
Well, we can leave that for you to make the motion on Monday.
We can't make a decision today anyway. Yes, sir.
Right.
It's true.
My comment was only to clarify that you're gonna make a decision between 5% and 7%, or 7.5% based on this information. I only want to clarify that the COLA has not been out there as much as you thought it was, not to affect it, whether it was elected or non-elected. Y'all were sitting here discussing between that based on information that wasn't accurate. That's the extent of my comment. I think employees deserve to be thought of as much as anybody.
Thank you.
Sheriff, if we went to the 7.5%, do you think that will help your attrition?
I think it's.
I know.
It's only a step in the direction.
You wanted 12.
I just, the numbers that I brought out show that, I like fairness and that, and the rest of I don't think.
No.
The JPs have lost people to the city constituents.
Sure.
Over 13 years, I've lost too many officers in the city. We've all seen people go, we can't get in the video where I saw what happened last time we go raise deputies 8 years ago. The city turned right back around because they had 2 people below 9 and raised them. That's insane. And I'll tell that to city council as well. But the fact that within the community, in law enforcement, it's a little bit different potato that we're trying to cut up. And I say that because it's the only group in this room in the courthouse that's 7x24. It's the only group in this community every day that we get up and put our clothes on, going to work knowing we may die. And you say that's not a reality. The reality is the people that are wanting to snipe on Facebook. We have officers in the community who have been shot. We've got officers in the community that lost their homes department. We've got officers in the community that went to the hospital during the pandemic over COVID. They're as human as everybody else here. And for the comments that I've seen posted on some sites, I take it.
Thank you. All right, taking all that into consideration, we can't make any decisions today, so I guess we're through. A motion?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call.
Aye.
Commissioner Castleline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace.
Hi.
Judge Mills.
All right, thank you.